folks. It is very warm. Very, very warm. I probably, since I got into the woods, I would say I probably have lost 4 or 5 pounds of sweat alone. I literally feel like I just walked out of a swimming pool with every stitch of clothing on. All my clothes are soaked. I am soaked. I made it a point to hydrate up this morning, and so far this morning I've drank about 3 liters of water, and I'm thirsty again already. So I'm going to go ahead and get things set up, and we'll go ahead and get things started. It's going to be a little bit different today. Howdy folks, welcome back to Boonedockery. I'm going to call today's video the economics of boiling water. I'm going to preface this video with a little bit of background information. First of all, I own all kinds of camping stoves, and I absolutely love using every single one of them for one particular reason or another. I know a lot of my videos make it appear that I am exclusively a solid fuel stove kind of guy. That's simply just not the case. I have liquid fuel stoves, solid fuel stoves, canister fuel stoves, alcohol stoves. I've got all kinds of stoves, probably a lot more than I should have. But I've always been blessed with the income to be able to afford to buy the things that I use in the woods. So, I splurge. So far, my videos have really been focused toward the beginner. For a beginner, there are a lot of things that they need to purchase. I feel that the primary focus of their spending should really focus on things like proper footwear, a good quality pack, and their sleep system. When the beginner finally gets around to thinking about food and food preparation, oftentimes we're pulled in by the lure of those wonderful advertisements and all those things we see on social media, like YouTube. The glitz and glamour of the newest high-tech stove oftentimes have us buying a stove before we even realize what our food needs are. Rarely do we consider why we'll eat what we eat, how we'll prepare it, or how we're going to transport or store it. Realistically, we could raid our pantry at home and have all kinds of pre-prepared food that we could take out in the woods for a weekend and wouldn't even have to cook. But there is, however, a certain amount of enjoyment, satisfaction, and adventure of cooking outdoors while we're wild camping. There's no denying a good hot meal at the end of the day can definitely set you straight. The focus of this video is going to be on instant meals and the stoves that we use to prepare those no-muss, no-fuss delicacies. I'm going to be talking about those stoves that are designed primarily just for boiling water. Just for a comparison, I'm going to be using 2 of the stoves I own, one of which is the MSR Reactor and the other is the Esbit Folding Solid Fuel Stove. I use and genuinely enjoy freeze-dried meals, and I prepare and drink coffee throughout the day. I use local water sources, and I usually will boil those to kill any bacteria or pathogens. For me, a stove that can boil water is genuinely all I ever need when I go out wild camping. When I first got into modern wild camping, I had nothing. I was starting from zero. And a couple of my friends both had stoves that were designed specifically for boiling water. One was a jet boil, one was an MSR reactor. I was very fortunate because since they had them, I could see them in action. I could pick them up, look at them, see them how they're designed, how well they're built. And then when I went home, I did my research and I wound up purchasing an MSR reactor. I was very pleased with my purchase, and I used it a lot. Fast forward to today. I look back, and had I known then what I know now, I might not have purchased it. I'm going to do a comparison and contrast between the MSR reactor and the Esbit Folding Solid Fuel Stove. I'd like to pause for a moment to apologize for any lack of continuity as far as the appearance of things go. The lighting's very different. The reason being, yesterday, I had to stop filming. Heat index got up to 104, 105 degrees, and I could tell that I wasn't feeling real well, and the filming definitely probably wasn't going so well. I'll see when I start to edit. Hopefully I don't have to reshoot the whole thing. I decided to start fresh this morning, and hopefully things will go a lot smoother, and it's definitely a lot cooler. Let's go ahead and get back to it. Even though what I'm going to do isn't technically a review, I'm going to handle it like I do a review. When I do a review, I never review anything I have not used extensively. In the same regard, I rarely ever purchase anything that I have not done thorough research. And when I talk about thorough research, I get obsessive. As an example, I'll just use the purchase of a new firearm. A lot of people, when they buy a firearm, they see what they like and they go buy it. It doesn't work that simple with me. Usually what I'll do is I'll see something, I'll stew on it for a while, think about it for a while, then if that thought starts to blossom into something that could possibly grow into fruition, then I start doing some research on the firearm. Then once I'm completely sold on that particular firearm, then I consider ammunition, I consider magazines, I consider optics, I consider illumination, I consider sling systems, and I research all of that. So when I finally wind up purchasing a firearm, I'm not just purchasing a firearm, I'm purchasing what I believe to be the perfect firearm to me, and I get all the bells and whistles in one fell swoop. Every single one of those bells and whistles gets researched just like the firearm. There, you have your warning. First of all, I'm going to go over a general overview of the two stoves. And then I'm going to start laying out all the research that I did on both of these stoves. If listening to that kind of thing's not exactly what you want to do, great, no problem. Fast forward to my conclusions, and then you'll get the wrap up and see exactly what all of that research led up to. This is the MSR Reactor. It's a canister stove. It consists of this cook pot, which has a very ingenious heat distribution system on it. And it also has a nice cable lock for the handle. The handle is a folding spring-loaded handle, has a lid. It's designed that you can carry an 8-ounce canister in there for your fuel. They provide a small pad to quiet things up a little bit, but it doesn't work real great because the actual stove portion, the burner, rubs across the bottom. So what I did is I just took a scrap of wool and put underneath of it. So the system consists of basically the cook pot and a lid, and just like any other cook pot system, except this ingenious little heat distribution. makes the fuel much more efficient and heats a lot faster. The burner simply screws to the canister. And then, when you're ready to cook, you fire it up and you put it right there on top. That's essentially what you see when you take it out of the box. The stove I'm going to be using for the comparison and contrast with the MSR Reactor is the lowly little teeny tiny Esbit Folding solid fuel stove. To deploy it, you simply open it up, and of course I have the homemade windshields that I made for it, and it has solid fuel tab storage inside. Just like I've shown in some of my other videos, all you do, you open the solid fuel tab, sticker in the middle, light it up, and that's essentially how it works. Sort of a David and Goliath type of thing, isn't it? We're going to go ahead and put the stoves into operation, and while they're doing their thing, I'm going to go over the general information on both of these products. The Esbit tabs are pretty well packaged. It helps protect them from breaking into the smaller pieces. And of course, I'm going to use my storm matches to ignite the solid fuel tab. It is July after all. I'm going to be using my Pathfinder stainless steel nesting canteen cup or water bottle cup as my cook pot, as the Esbit does not come with a cook pot. I'm going to put about 12 ounces in there because that's usually what I would be using to reconstitute a Mountain House meal or to make a great big humongous cup of joe. I'll put the lid on there and very precariously balance it on this log. Now, some of the base information. The price of the MSR Reactor is $79.95. That's roughly about 64 pounds British. The weight of the MSR Reactor is 18.2 ounces or 515 grams. The dimensions of the MSR Reactor is 7.1 inches by 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. That's when it's completely folded up and stored, or 18 by 14 by 14 centimeters. The Esbit runs about $12.95. That's roughly about 10 to 11 pounds British. It comes with 6 heat tabs. The price of the stove by itself would be about $8.99 US or 714 pounds. The weight of just the stove with the 6 heat tabs is 3.2 ounces or 88 grams. And the dimensions, when it's folded, is 3 7/8 inches by 2 7/8 inches by 3/4 inches, or 8.9 by 7.3 by 1.9 centimeters. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the reactor. To do that, you simply turn the gas on and light it up. Now, when this comes to full heat, it's going to expose a logo, very cleverly designed into a filament just below the top grade. And since this particular stove system is designed to boil 1 liter of water fairly quickly, I'm going to put 1 liter of water in it. I tried to record the logo coming up on the filament with the GoPro. We'll see how that turns out. Turns out great, it'll be in the video. On and light it up. Now when this comes to full heat, it's going to expose a logo, very cleverly designed into a filament just below the top grade. There we go. We'll go ahead and put the lid back on that. And I'm going to go over some more information. This information is primarily about the fuel. A fuel canister, which I was using MSR's own Isopro fuel, sells for about $5.95 for an 8-ounce canister, which is 4.73 pounds. The Esbit, the fuel tabs, roughly balance out per Esbit brand as 66 cents a piece, which is 52 pence British. The weight of the full canister is 13.1 ounces or 371.4 grams. The weight of an Esbit tab is half an ounce or 14 grams. The dimensions of the canister is 3.7 inches by 4.3 inches by 4.3 inches or 9.4 by 11 by 11 centimeters. The Esbit tabs are half an inch by 1 1/4 inch by 1 inch or 1.3 by 3.2 by 2.5 centimeters. The number of ounces that one of these canisters is supposed to boil is 20 liters total. However, that can't happen because these canisters never permit you to be able to utilize all the fuel that's in it. The equivalent of being able to boil 20 liters of water using the Esbit tabs would require 40 tabs. Seems like a big difference, but considering the Esbit tabs will burn 100%, and when you are finished getting to a boiling point, you can blow the unused portion out and reuse it. The Isopro doesn't work that well. Depending on what the weather conditions are, you may be stuck with 1/5 of the fuel in there that you simply can't use. There are a few products on the market that turn the Isopro can upside down so you can get more, but even at that you lose pressure and it stalls out your stove. Another thing you can do is to create some type of a koozie system and put hand warmers in it, and that will keep the temperature up in cold weather and allow it to work a little bit better. But no matter what I've tried, I always wind up with about 1/5 of the fuel that's pretty much unusable in the canister. And the reactors come to a boil. The Esbit has come to a boil. There's a noticeable difference. What I'm going to do, believe it or not, as warm as it is I'm going to make myself a cup of joe. And I'll be right back. Now we're going to get into the fine minutiae of my research. And this is more or less talking about the same type of thing as like bells and whistles that I was earlier for firearms. Both of these cook systems require water, and they require something to carry the water in. So as a weight comparison, I simply added a 1 liter plastic Nalgene bottle with 1 liter of water in it to add to the weight of these systems. That would add 41.45 ounces or 1,175 grams to both these systems. Since the MSR already comes with a cook pot, I had to add a cook pot to my cook system to even it out, to make it equal. So the Pathfinder stainless steel cup with lid is 7.2 ounces or 203 grams. So if I combine the total weight of this system and this system, what I'm going to get is a total combined weight of, for the MSR Reactor, 75.85 ounces or 2,061.4 grams. Now, if I were to have the 40 heat tabs in order to compete with the 20-liter boil capacity, which they claim to have, which I think is impossible because you can't use all the fuel that's in it, that would bring the weight of the Esbit system to 71.85 ounces or 2,026 grams. Now we're going to talk about money. And again, we're making the comparison with the Esbit system with 40 heat tabs. So, MSR Reactor, the stove $79.95, fuel's $5.95, which brings that total to $85.90. You add a Nalgene bottle, that's another $10.99, and that brings the total up to $96.89. And everything's included as far as a cook pot and everything, so that's going to bring that to being its final total, which makes it 76.96 pounds. The Esbit system, the stove alone, is $8.99. The fuel, 40 tabs, is $26.40. Brings that total to $35.39. Add the Nalgene bottle, that's another $10.99. Brings that total to $46.38. Add the Pathfinder cup with a lid, that's another $13, which will bring that total to $59.38. The difference between the two prices, again, making sure I have 40 heat tabs with the Esbit, the difference between the two is $37.51, or 29.30 pounds British pounds, in favor of the Esbit. Now, when we're looking at weight, the actual weight per day for carrying this system with the water and everything else, the MSR Reactor is 75.85 ounces, which is 2,061.4 grams. The Esbit is 36.5 ounces, or 1,034.8 grams. The difference of the two is 39.35 ounces, which is 2 pounds, 7.35 ounces, or 1,026.6 grams. That's a significant amount of weight difference between the two. So far, the Esbit is much less expensive, and the Esbit is also lighter weight. Again, keeping in mind that you're going to have 40 heat tabs here, which, by the way, comes in a box about that size. Now, let's get on with some more information. As you could tell, it takes a little while longer for the Esbit stove to boil 12 ounces of water compared to the MSR Reactor boiling 1 liter of water. The MSR Reactor takes about 3.5 minutes to boil 1 liter of water. And the 12 ounces that I use almost all the time to boil with the Esbit takes about 6 minutes. Yeah, is the cost and the weight more important to get it 2.5 minutes faster for 1 liter? When I was doing boiling tests for my Esbit stove, because I wanted to see if my Esbit stove could boil 1 liter of water. First of all, I don't own a cook pot that is not part of a system that has a capacity of 1 liter. I don't own one. So I had to actually scavenge a 1 liter cook pot from another cook system to try it out. I knew I was going to have to use 2 tabs, so I started off with 2 heat tabs. It burned out at roughly anywhere between 12 to 14 minutes burn time, because I did the test twice. And one of the tests, I did it with the cook pot, and it brought the temperature up to 501 degrees, or excuse me, 201 degrees. 212 degrees is boiling. The second time I tried it, it brought the temperature up to about 206 degrees, still just shy of that boiling point. So 2 heat tabs with the Esbit stove could not bring 1 liter of water to a boil. This one does it pretty remarkably well. Realistically, I would never use 1 liter of water at one point. This is convenient because I can boil enough for a Mountain House meal, and also be able to have enough for a good cup of joe to drink while I'm waiting for the Mountain House meal to reconstitute. Yeah, that's okay. But at the same idea, I can boil a water. Takes, roughly about 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes, somewhere around there, to boil 12 ounces. And I'll go ahead and reconstitute the meal while I was doing this thing. Or I can start off with the coffee, and while I'm sipping on my coffee, wait for it to come to boil and start reconstituting the meal. And to me, 12 minutes isn't that big of a deal. I'm in the woods relaxing. I'm not running a race. I don't need to have necessarily something that's going to boil the water before I even put it in the pot. So those are just some thoughts that was coming through my mind as I was going through all of this data. Now I'm going to share my conclusions from my research and my tests. Discussing the total cook systems, I'm going to be referencing to an actual day use, which to me would be 6 heat tabs. I would be using 6 heat tabs during the course of the day. That's going to give me 3 Mountain House meals and 3 cups of coffee. This is what it is. So the total cook system weight difference per day with only the 6 heat tabs is going to be 2 pounds, 3.7 ounces, 1,026 grams in favor of the Esbit. The total cook system price difference per 1 day's fuel use is $59.95, which is 47.62 pounds British in favor of the Esbit. That's almost $60 or almost 48 pounds difference in price for a 1 day use. Now, the fuel's always expendable. You're always going to be replacing that. And the price for 6 heat tabs is insignificant. That winds up being roughly about $1.80 as compared to the fuel canister, which you can never use all the fuel out of anyway. That's going to be roughly around $6. So those are just some ideas to think about when you're comparing these 2 types of cook systems. Now, there's no doubt about it, the boil time is a lot faster with the MSR reactor. And so when I'm comparing the boil time differences for 2 boils of 12 ounces versus 1 boil of 1 liter, the difference in time is 8 minutes 9 seconds. Oh, excuse me, 8.9 minutes. So almost 9 minutes difference. When I'm in the woods, I'm relaxing, I think I could probably sacrifice 9 minutes. I really struggled with trying to figure out how in the world I was going to be able to do this video and make it even just the tiniest bit interesting. I realized that sitting here beside a couple of stoves, you're reading off a piece of paper, may not have been very exciting, but I just really didn't know how else to do it. Usually when I see reviews, more often than not, someone has just got something in the mail, they pull it out of the box, they use it for the first time, and they give you their general impressions. They don't go into any particular research whatsoever. Finding the research information online is virtually impossible to get something that is guaranteed to be correct. I looked on all kinds of different forums, backpacking forums, camp stove forums, things like that, and all I constantly did was find more and more conflicting information. So I did everything myself. I measured everything myself. I weighed everything myself. The only thing that I did not do was actually do a total burn time and amount of liters per canister boil time with the MSR Isopro fuel canisters. Number one, I could never use the full canister anyway. It doesn't work that way. And the other thing is I didn't want to use the time. So that information that I got from the canister information, I got straight from MSR's website. And it is what it is. So if I have any flawed data as far as any of the stuff I presented to you, it's on the canister, which would be on MSR. Now, I'm not doing this video necessarily to sway you one way or the other. I have absolutely nothing to gain from any of the research I've did other than knowledge. I like the MSR reactor. It's fun. It sounds like a rocket ship getting ready to take off when I fire it up and put that on there. And it boils things really fast. It's neat. It's a cool kind of thing. The Esbit, it's not real exciting. It's sort of tiny. It's not pretty. Doesn't make really cool rocket sounds. But it does what it does. If you want to buy an MSR reactor, you have all the information you need to go out and buy it informed. Not because you saw a commercial and not because you said, oh wow, that looks neat. No, you have the information now to where you can go out and know exactly what you're going to be buying. And the same thing with the Esbit. A lot of you out there, especially beginners, you have to count your pennies. Now you need to be, putting the bulk of your money in important things like good footwear, a good backpack, and a good shelter and sleep system. Those are the most important things you need to focus on right off the bat. And those things are expensive. You don't need to be spending a whole bunch of extra money on the glitzy and glamorous, newest, high-tech stoves. You're boiling water. Okay? But if you want to do it, great, no problem. Go for it. I'm not here to try to, dissuade you from doing so. Just trying to give information for you to be able to make an informed decision. Now, with all of the information that I personally have researched, I hope that that information is useful for you, especially if you're in a market for stoves. If you've never considered the solid fuel stove, it's just, it's not fancy. It doesn't attract a whole lot of attention. But if you've never considered the solid fuel stove as a viable option, especially if all you do is boil water, it might be something that you throw into your kit. And as inexpensive as it is, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to have your regular fancy-dancy water boiling cook system and an Esbit. Now, as far as bulk goes, this takes up a lot more bulk and space than this system goes. Because the nice thing is you can nest your Nalgene bottle inside the cup, put the lid underneath of it, carry it in your pouch. So literally you have something the size of the bottle and your cook stove folded up with your heat tabs in them. For me, I use 4 heat tabs to 6 heat tabs. And in order to put 4 in, and I can take an extra box because I usually take extras anyway, just in case. So as far as bulk goes, this is much less bulky. If you are going to be going out and you don't want to take a big pack, just right here, one of the more traditional style water bottle pouches, you can nest your water bottle inside your cook pot, slide that in the main pouch. It has a zipper pocket on the outside big enough for the Esbit stove and the solid fuel. So one pouch is all you need for your cook system. This, on the other hand, not so much. Everything will be roughly this size because all of this will go back inside here, and your Nalgene bottle. So it's a little more bulky. If weight's a concern, definitely the Esbit is much lighter weight. And of course, you know the price concerns. Ultimately, it's whatever makes you happy, whatever you like more. That's what you should go with. The way I look at it, if you're in the woods and you're enjoying your time in the woods, it doesn't matter if you have a $90 cook system or a $9 cook system. Whatever is going to allow you to enjoy your time in the forest, that is what's most important. Well, folks, today's video really wasn't all that exciting, not a whole lot of adventure in it. But hopefully the research that I've done and the information I presented to you will help you make an informed decision, especially if you're in a market for a stove system that specifically is designed to boil water. Remember, folks, absolutely the 100% most important thing that you can have in your bushcraft kit is knowledge. Well, folks, it is time for me to hit the hot, humid trail again. Hopefully the information I presented in today's video will help you make an informed decision if you're planning on purchasing one of these kinds of stoves. If you like today's video, click like. If you like what's going on the channel, click subscribe. If you want to stay up to date on everything that's going on with the channel, hit the notifications bell. As always, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.